Hey guys, Paul James Caden here with the Spirit Side Journey Towards the Light. This week on the podcast, I'm going to be doing something quite a bit different than what I usually do, but it's something I've been wanting to get into here on the show and share with you guys, and that is sharing spirit box sessions. If you're not familiar with what a spirit box is, it is generally a radio that's hooked up to scan through the radio stations very quickly, forwards or backwards. And there are apps that we can get on our phones that scan through internet radio or regular radio. And it's said and hypothesized that spirit can use the static and the words and the sounds of the radio as it's scanning through the stations to form words and give us messages. And I've always found that those messages that we get through a spirit box session are very clear. They're very concise, perhaps much more than any other ITC tool that I've seen or experimented with myself. In this particular session that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, it's kind of a heavy subject. We're going to be talking about, is humanity pushing the boundaries? Are we about to enter what many call the last days because of not necessarily God punishing us, but because of what we're doing? And the responses here are very interesting. And I decided to launch into this subject during this session because it's something that's been coming up very spontaneously in my own private spirit box sessions. I've had about 3 private sessions of my own where this just keeps coming up, and I'm not asking about it. I'm not inquiring about it. So I decided to delve deeper into this subject in this session. And the responses certainly are interesting. And the thing about a spirit box session is that when you do something like this, you hear certain responses with your ears. But then when you go back and listen to it, you realize that you had many more responses than what you thought you did. And those responses will be on the screen during the session so you can see and hear what Spirit is saying. So this was a very interesting session. And, even though I try to connect with, angels and high spirits, I always say we have to take with a bit of grain of salt anything that Spirit tells us. I've gotten responses through spirit boxes that seem to be very prophetic, and they happened in real time, just as Spirit told me. Other times, not so much. The interesting thing to focus on here is that we're getting responses. We're getting responses to our questions, our comments, and that's what's exciting about all of this. That some spirit presence out there is interacting and speaking with us through these sessions. And again, that kind of files under the data of possible proof of life beyond this life. But this was a very interesting session, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you're listening to this, I am going to share this session on the audio podcast channels like Spotify, Apple, and all of that. But I'm going to leave the link to the YouTube channel below in the podcast description. So you might want to, if you're listening on the audio podcast sites, that's great. But you might want to take the time after a while to go over and watch the video on YouTube, where many of the responses I missed in real time are on the screen because they're very interesting. So I hope all of you enjoy the Spirit Box session, and I will see you on the other side. All right, I come in love, light, and peace. and I ask if there are any high spirits from the light or angels that are nearby. Could you let us know you're there if there's anyone close by? Oh, we got a word. Always. Very clear. So I've been getting a lot of responses through the spirit box about Day of Judgment, End of Times. Does anyone want to clarify that? It's been very spontaneous. It sounded like that may have said the end. Can you clarify if that's what was said? Are we entering the last days on planet Earth? That mimicked my word Earth, which was quite interesting. And once again, is humanity putting itself in a bad position with the things that we're doing? The way we're treating one another? The way we're treating one another and this planet? Could you repeat that, please? Is mankind putting ourselves in jeopardy with the way we're treating one another and the planet? I heard the word energy, and that's what I believe, that what many call the end times is not God punishing us, but the energy we're putting out in the world, in our atmosphere, on our planet, in our homes, in our lives. Spirits, can you confirm that for me? Are we our own worst enemies at times by the energy we put out? Yes. Very clear, yes. Now, the early Christians believed that prophecy was conditional, that mankind could always change his ways and change the outcome of what would happen. Hey, Jethro. Can we change the direction we're going in? Can we change our future if we better ourselves? Advancement. I heard the word advancement. So can we change our future by advancing ourselves spiritually? I would recommend. Do you think we'll turn ourselves around before it's too late? Do you think we'll turn ourselves around before it's too late? If you go back and listen, that sounded like it said done it before. That we can find them. So mankind
Find
Mankind has changed its outcome in the past. That was about, I heard the word yeah, and I heard the word progress. Can you tell me if that was again progress? Progress the world. So we certainly have to progress beyond where we are now to change the world. So you can see sometimes with a spirit box, someone might say, well, it's random, but it seems sometimes many times the responses are very on point with the subject that you're asking, and sometimes it's even more specific than what we're getting right now.
Jethro.
I've heard the word Jethro twice. Am I speaking to someone named Jethro? Am I speaking to a spirit named Jethro? From your friend. Is Jethro an angel? Is Jethro an angel bringing this information? Let me ask again without the interruption. Is Jethro an angel? I heard a yes.
energy fund.
So Jethro is an angel bringing his energy through. Is that correct?
I did not.
And you're sure we can trust what Jethro's telling us? Sometimes the spirits bring questionable information.
The output. Yes.
Princess of Podcast.
I heard the words "he is" before. Is that saying that Jethro is bringing forth true information? That he's something. But getting back to our discussion, how long does humanity have if we don't change course?
Full advancement. And
I heard the word advancement again, and
there really isn't from that point.
like I said, there really is a mess from that point.
And
So if we don't advance soon, we'll really be in a mess. Can you tell us how long we have before that mess gets really bad?
I give.
I heard the word 2. Does that mean 2 more years?
I give.
What does that mean? I give. Are you saying you give it?
Just need to think.
Does that mean you give it 2 more years before we're really in a mess? Something about terror. I always feel that mankind needs to get back to the relationship with God. What do you think about that? I heard the word key.
Yes.
I heard the word key, and I feel it is key that we, or is the key that we get back to our connection with God in this world. Can you comment on that? Has mankind gotten too far away from the divine? Has mankind gotten too far away from the divine?
Yeah.
Are we hurting ourselves by turning our backs on God?
Scale the type.
Do we need to get back to a deeper connection with the divine? Seems things are tapering off a bit now.
God point.
I think there was a ministry and God points.
Jesus said.
Jesus said. Disciples. The disciples. So with those responses, and it's interesting with a spirit box that sometimes you get words and phrases that kind of pertain to what you're asking. So I'm kind of gathering that those answers coming through God point, Jesus, the disciples, that Spirit is asking us to get back to God, the God point, back to Christ, become disciples.
We value
We value something. Is that correct, what I just said?
To hear
Can you validate
those. So
I give.
be
I keep hearing that. I give. And that's interesting because this is a
grow and be
grow and become. Grow and become more like Christ. As I was saying, to hear repetitive things like that through a spirit box. This is an app that's scanning through internet radio stations. So to get repeated things like that, this is not like a voice bank or anything like that with repeated phrases. This is going through live radio, so when you get those repeated responses, that's very interesting. Because radio stations, internet or otherwise, aren't saying that the same thing over and over again. So, high spirits, can you tell me if I was on the right track about getting back to God, becoming disciples of Christ, getting back to the God point? Getting back to the God point. Was that the message you were conveying earlier? Can you confirm that I'm interpreting your words and your intentions correctly?
hard-hitting flavor.
I'm not sure what that said.
Satisfied.
So I'll ask one more time if you could confirm that what I'm interpreting from your words is correct. That sounded like my name.
What he's. Comes up the mixer.
But now moving along, I heard the word farmers a ways back.
Lower.
And that is a word I've been hearing over and over in my spirit box sessions. Are you
Period.
Yes, I'm curious. It is curious. Are you telling us that there could be a problem with the crops? If we continue on this path we're on? Is mankind upsetting the balance of nature too much with how he's treating this planet?
That I don't.
Are we risking damaging our food supply even more with what we're doing.
Something. The best
The best we can. I don't.
see.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before I close this session? Just that.
Only 2 cases. As our
Anything else you'd like to Anything else you'd like to share before we close this session?
And
Anything at all?
tired as our
So we heard the word energy come through in this session a lot. And that's really something I've been thinking about a lot, the energy we put out into the atmosphere, into our lives, into this world. And now that seems to be kind of spitting back at me through the spirit box. So I think we'll all take that for what we will, and ponder on all of this. And let me know what you guys think about this spirit session, the spirit box session. There's progress again. We have to progress.
but no.
wait. It's great count.
Again, we heard progress, so those repeated words, very,
Young and old.
very interesting when it's scanning through live radio. And sometimes spirit box sessions are a lot more fluid than it. Sometimes less so. It's not like it's a state of the world.
And
But still interesting. I think there were some interesting words that came through on this particular session. And I thank any spirits who communicated here tonight. I'm not going to edit this. I usually put my shows out as is. So again, thank anyone. Did I just say as is? That's funny. As is, it's going out as is. So anything you'd like to add before we close? This was very interesting. There we go. Well, it definitely was. So thank you again, spirits. Thank you everyone for listening. And I'll see you next time here on the Spirit Side.